Welcome to I Finally Get It. Today we sit down with Boyd Raborn, owner of R.A.H. Homes and Construction. With me today, as always, Dustin Webb, our producer. I'm your host, Jeff Martin. Let's get it.
Finally Get It. It started years ago back in the early 2000s when I was working offshore and I had some rental property. And I was working on my own rental property. I bought a fourplex and I had the truck and the trailer, the tools, and people saw me with my truck and my trailer. And I was going to work on my stuff. People would flag me down and ask me, "Hey man, can you come, work on my fascia, my soffit, change the door?" I said, "No, man, I'm just working on my stuff." And it just kept on and on and on. And then one day, I told my wife, I said, this might be something here, man. Maybe I'll try it. That was a moment to where I decided, you know what, I'm gonna break out. I'm gonna try one.
Yeah.
So I just went from doing one job at a time on my 7 days off, and it just grew from there.
Yep. So you were willing to, you kept your full-time job for a while, right?
Oh yeah, I worked 7 to 7 offshore.
Yeah.
Then I would come home, work on the rental units. And then I started running a handyman.
Yeah, which is R.A.H., right?
Which is R.A.H. Homes.
A handyman.
It started there with that, and then it just grew. And then it got to where I could only do so much in my 7 days at home. And I had to make the decision, do I want to be satisfied with making so much from a Monday? Well, really, it was a Friday, Monday through Friday. Or do I want to try to grow? So I had to make the choice. Am I going to use the cell phone as my tool, or am I going to use the hammer and the saw as my tool?
All right, that's a light bulb moment.
That's a light bulb moment.
That is a light bulb moment. Okay. Let's talk about that for a minute.
Okay. I knew what I could make just me working. So if I said, well, if I lay down the hammer and the saw, and I use the telephone, and if I can hire me some people to work under me, the sky's the limit. I can make more than what I can make from Monday through Friday.
That's right.
So I said, well, I'm going to give that a shot. I felt like I was a pretty good salesman with the personality and get along good with people. So that's what I did. And when I say I laid it down, I laid it down.
Yeah.
And I got another fella to help me. Then we just grew from there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And run a handyman. I ended up getting a job where I think it was Bank One at the time. It was doing maintenance work. So this one job was a pretty big job. It was over a $50,000 job. They asked me, they said, "Do you have your contractor's license?" I said, no. I said, look, when I say I didn't know anything, I didn't know anything. I didn't have a mentor telling me what to expect, what to do. I was just basically winging it,
Yeah.
They said, well, if you want to do any work for us over $50,000 or any roofing jobs, anything like that, you got to have your contractor's license. So I said, okay, well, make a long story short, I went and got my contractor's license, and I got my residential license. Then while I was getting that, one of the girls said, well, why don't you get your general contractor's license, which is your commercial?
Got it.
So I said, all right. I'm not very good at taking tests. I said, well, look, if I'm going to go ahead and take a test, I'm going to go ahead and knock out both of these at the same time. So that's what I did. So I went ahead and I got the residential and also the commercial. I got that, started doing other jobs. And the next little moment was me and my wife wanted to build a house. We thought about getting into the new construction, but we never done it before. So we ended up building our house.
That's good practice, huh?
Oh, yeah.
Let's see if you can do it.
So after we did, I said, this is fun. We get it. And my wife's good at it. She's our interior decorator. We said, you know what? We're going to jump out. We're going to do that. So I got with Steve Ashley, with Doug Ashley Building Materials. He had a subdivision going in Youngsville called Fieldcrest. Mm-hmm. We ended up buying a lot from him, building our first house with the name in the front yard, Rent a Handyman.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we built that, sold that, built another one, sold that one. And I told my wife, I said, you know what? I said, if we're going to do this, nobody's going to buy a house from us with a a yellow sign in the yard, black rent-a-handyman with a carpenter with a 2-bag in his hand running.
That's right.
I said, it just doesn't fit. So that's how we came up. We took the initials off of rent-a-handyman, and we made R.A.H. Homes and Construction.
Yeah. So there's another light bulb moment.
That was another light bulb
branding
moment.
is such a big deal.
Yeah.
So, and who are we going to attract with rent-a-handyman?
So we did homes so people would know new construction, and we put construction thinking people might see commercial or any other handyman home improvement jobs.
Yeah.
That's
amazing. So I want to kind of go back to you being employed. You had some rent houses, so you were investing, and it was income stream for you, right?
Right.
Had you ever done any other kind of entrepreneurial venture before, or were you kind of working offshore, working in oil field?
No, this was, getting into the real estate was my first go at it.
Yep.
I did that when I moved over here to Lafayette.
Yeah, that's so interesting. It grew out of, I don't want to say necessity, but because you were in the game of rent houses and because you were fixing them up anyway, that's when you never had an entrepreneurial bug just to go out and grow the company you have today? No,
I'm going to tell you, where I lived back in A-Meat, that's all I did was work offshore.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, my friends and the people I was around just didn't do that.
Correct.
Well, when I moved over here to Lafayette, I had some friends that was in the real estate. Something drew me toward that. And I told myself, I said, that's something I can do.
Yeah.
I know I can do that.
Yeah.
So I was just around the right people. It's all in surrounding yourself with the right people.
The right people. Timing is a huge thing.
Yeah.
And knowing when to take risk.
Oh, yeah. And I saw where I could be my own boss.
Yeah.
And we started having children, and I was working offshore, and that started to be challenging.
Yep, correct.
Going offshore, and the kids would be crying when I would go offshore and come back, and I told myself, I said, I got to do something.
Yeah, yep.
To get back home full time. I was working offshore, and they sold us.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to go through the long story of telling you how that happened, but they ended up selling us to another company. Well, they ended up cutting our pay 10%. I said, well, okay, here's the sign from God telling me, boy, here's the time to make you move or get ready to make you move, ship you here.
Correct.
I did that the next year. I worked for 10% less the next year, but I continued working at home to grow my business.
Yeah.
Well, a year later, they cut us another 10%.
God.
So that was 20%. So that's when I made up my mind, I'm going to come home. We're going to get into it full time.
Yeah.
And that's when we started building speculative houses. That's how really R.A.H. started, was building speculative houses. When I started that first spec house in Youngsville, it just grew from there.
I want to kind of talk about what you have going on today, because I'm amazed that there was no vision toward what you're doing today. Or you would just trusted in God that things were going to work out?
It was a phase. Like I said, I didn't have a mentorship.
Yeah.
And the older contractors, they wouldn't help you because I was their competition.
Their competition, that's right.
So I had to wing it. If I made a wrong move and it cost me money, I knew next time not to do that. So it took a long time to learn that. We were just building speculative houses. That's what was keeping us
that's right.
going. Then when it got to 2008, and that's when the market hit.
Yeah, the bust, yeah.
Well, that was another light bulb moment, moment. Well, when that stopped and I wasn't working offshore, well, what else am I going to do?
You had to do something then.
I had to do something. Well, we wasn't doing any home improvement, handyman stuff, because we was concentrating on spec homes.
Mm-hmm.
Well, then it got my brain to thinking, okay, well, boy, you got to do something. So I went back offshore just to make ends meet with my family. And then I got back into doing the handyman stuff. I had a friend of mine one time to tell me, go back to your roots. Go back to the nuts and bolts of it. So we did. So started back doing handyman stuff and working. I was working 7 days a week through all that time to where I could afford to where I could quit offshore again. And come back to work.
So you found your heart and what you were built for was the company.
What I learned is don't say no to anything.
Yeah.
So I do anything.
That's another one.
That's another one. Just don't say no to anything. Just do it all. And then I look back on it, all the things that I turned down. Was hard-headed, I guess.
So why would you turn things down?
We was building spec houses.
Oh,
okay.
During that phase,
during that time, we had hurricanes that come through, and all these insurance jobs, and I mean, we was building. Sometimes I had 8, 10, 15 houses on the ground.
Wow.
So I really didn't have the time. But if I really thought about it, and if I really should have, I could have made time, because things in phases in construction. Every job. If you have 10 jobs going, 10 of them are not at the same phase.
Yeah, that's right.
They're in 10 different phases.
Yep.
So I just had to learn how to organize better. And I could have done that, but it took it hitting, realizing, wait a minute, this is what I should have done.
Yeah, and you just changed the way you did things, right? You went back to the nuts and bolts, and then you came back to where your heart was.
Right.
And where you found that this is what I'm built for. Mm-hmm. And so today, you're doing some handyman. You're doing commercial.
Mostly, in the end of 22, when the interest rates went up, we had 4 new homes we were completing, and we was bidding on some other houses. But when that interest rate went up, all new construction just stopped with us, and then all of a sudden the renovation shot up. So then I saw it was good to be multi-talented.
That's right.
And to know what everything. So when people didn't want to sell or buy, well, they just kept what they had, and they renovated their master bathrooms, their master bedrooms, their kitchens, additions. I mean, we just hit another roller coaster up. I mean, instantly, like in January, man, we started getting plans on doing all renovation, and that's all we're doing right now is renovations.
Is that right? Yep.
We've bidded on some new houses, but with the cost of construction, people are just holding tight right now.
Yeah, you continually supplement with new rent houses and things like that, other ventures and stuff.
Yeah,
right? That's good. You went from working offshore to being a real, true entrepreneur.
Yeah, I really didn't realize that's what I was till being around my friends and say, oh, okay, well, that's what an entrepreneur is,
That's exactly right.
And I liked it, and I felt like I'm doing pretty good at it,
Yeah. For the guys out there, ladies, guys that are working in a day-to-day job, what would you tell them if they had this kind of burning to go and do something in business?
Well, number one, you need to put God first.
There you go.
What I did years ago, it was just backwards. I had work first. The reason I put work first, I felt like God was okay with that because I had to work to provide for my family. And then I put my family second because I felt God was okay with that because I had to
work.
I had to work, for them. And then I put God third. So I felt like he was okay with that because I was doing the right thing for my family.
That's right.
But until it hit me, until I went through Acts.
Yeah.
The light bulb went off and it said, wait a minute, I got it just backwards. Where I had it 1, 2, 3, I flipped it.
3, 2, 1.
3, 2, 1.
God,
I flipped it.
Family, work.
I put God first, family second, and work third.
All right, so that's probably your biggest light bulb.
That's my biggest light bulb.
Yeah.
And this is what I tell people.
We got to hit that one.
Okay. This is what I tell people. If you do number 1, number 2 and 3 is easy.
Yeah.
You put God first, 2 and 3 is easy. Where before I had work and family, and then God third, all 3 was hard.
Yeah.
All 3 was hard. But when I put God first, and you got to put the faith. You got to have faith to where I know I'm not going to fail. I know I'm not going to fail.
Yeah.
I know deep because I know he's not going to let me fail. And I don't worry about it anymore. He's going to provide one way or another.
Yeah.
I've seen it too many times on a daily basis, weekly basis. When things are tough and you wonder where the next paycheck's coming, something always comes through. You just got to surrender it up and just put it in his hands. And thank God I got a wonderful wife, Michelle. She's my rock.
She is great. And your family, the
all
boys.
My family, the boys are good. Yeah,
the
boys are good. Gunnar and Bailey, they, Gunnar's a realtor. Now, that was a part of our team that we were missing. Mm-hmm. And he's a kicking coach now, for one-on-one kicking Louisiana.
Yeah, both your boys kicked in college.
Both of them kicked in college,
Yeah.
and then Bailey's in Jacksonville, Florida, as a caddy right now. So
Nice.
he's going to work over there for a while. Looks like he's going to come back and get into the family business. So
There you go.
So we got a very good future now. And since my mother died back in December, my baby brother, has moved over here to Lafayette.
Oh, wow.
So he's a realtor, and he's in the roofing business, and he's going to help us in the construction business as well. So we really got a family.
No mistakes.
We can do it all. We can do it all. I mean, we got family now.
Yeah, yeah. That's what you're building. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
When you put things in the right order. You meet so many people through construction and working, and all your team members. When you meet them, how do you leave them different and better than before they met you?
I always tell them, we appreciate the business and thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah.
And just to let them know that we're always there. Just because we finished your job, that's not the last time that I want to hear from you. Every person that we've ever worked with, I try not to say for, work with, their name and numbers in my phone. We try to make relationships is what we strive for.
That's the bit. You're building relationships.
Building relationships.
So speaking of relationships, you kind of mentioned that you really didn't have any mentors in the construction business, but you had to have had some people that influenced you along the way. Who's been your biggest influence?
My wife, Michelle. She's been there with me through the tough times, the good times. If I wouldn't have had her, I don't think I would have made it.
Yeah, we're both proud members of the Married Up Club, aren't we?
Oh, yeah, I'm married up, man.
Yeah.
I'm married up.
No doubt about it. Thanks for tuning in to I Finally Get It. If you want to see more about Boyd and what he's got going on, check out the show notes. And don't forget to like and subscribe so you never miss an episode. If you're a business owner and you have a light bulb moment that you think would help other business owners, please send me a note at jeff@ifinallygetit.com.